Hi guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be talking about capos. I'll be showing you how to put a capo on and keep the guitar in tune. I'll be showing you uses for a capo, using a capo versus you playing bar chords. We'll also have a quick little look at the different types of capos and the pros and cons of each. And in a second video I'll show you where you want to put the capo on to change the key. If someone's looking for, let's say, B flat and you're in G, where you want to put that capo, and also where else to put the capo. Let's say you're in the key of G and you want to come up with a second guitar part higher up the guitar, where to put the capo and what shapes to use to get the same key of G with the capo on. And also guys, is it a capo or a capo? I guess it's like tomato, tomato, just depends where you're from. If you're going to put an American twang on it, you're going to say capo. But if you're going to say it with an Irish accent, sure to be sure, I'm going to say capo. All right guys, let's do this. So I guess guys, if you're a beginner, the most common use for a capo is just to change the key of a song, or it's to be able to play a song that has chords like, let's say, A, F sharp minor, or a B minor, and all these different kind of chords. It makes it easier to play these chords by putting a capo on and just being able to use common chords or easy chords like G, C, D, E minor, and A minor, and those kind of chords to change the key without actually having to go ahead and learn a whole bunch of chords. So with that in mind, I'll first show you how to put a capo on. A lot of people, when they put the capo on, the guitar goes a little bit out of tune, and then they have to retune the guitar. There's a way to get a capo on without really having to retune the guitar. Maybe it needs a little tweak, but let's just have a look at this. So I'll show you using probably the most common type of capo, which is this, which is a spring mounted one at the back. So you have the front of this will press down on the strings for you, and then it's held under tension by a spring here and pressing into the back of the guitar. So how I do this to keep the guitar in tune, first of all, where you want to place the capo, I generally find it's best placed just, if I'm putting it on the second fret here, I'm going to not have it at the back of the fret, the strings will be dead. And I find if it's too far at the front, because you're pressing right behind the fret, you're pulling the strings down behind the fret and they tend to bend a little bit, and the guitar goes a little bit sharp. So I find anywhere from the middle to the front of the fret is you're going to get a nice placement, because it allows a bit of string behind, so the string isn't at such a sharp angle that it's going out of tune. So the trick to getting the capo on and keeping the guitar in tune is this. So first of all, what I'm going to do, if I'm putting my capo on the second fret, I'm going to press down, hold the strings on the third fret. I'm going to put the front of the capo down against the strings first. So now the strings are in place, the capo's in place, and then I'm releasing the spring at the back. So what's that done is the strings are sat against the fret. I've put the capo down there, so neither of them are moving. And then as I release this tension on the back, it just presses down those strings in place. What happens is people tend to put the capo down, or they put the back in front, and then when they push the front down, it tends to bend the strings a little bit, therefore bending them out of tune. The next thing to do then is just give each string a tiny little pull, because sometimes the capo can kind of snag the string a little bit. And I find if you do that, you'll find that you get the guitar is now, as you can hear, pretty much in tune. So just going over that again, guys, put the capo on from the middle to the front of the fret, not right at the front of it. Press down against the string. Put the front part of the capo against the strings first, and then allow the back to close against the neck. Give them a little pull, the strings, and you'll find that your guitar is pretty much in tune. You may need to give it a little tune, but it'll just be a little tweak, depending on, there's so many factors here, depending on the tightness of the spring, your guitar, all that kind of thing can affect how the guitar might sound with a capo on. There's a few uses for a capo. Mainly what people do is they use it for changing the key of a song. So if I've written a song in the key of G, and I have a singer, and the melody they're trying to sing is too low there and they want to go up a bit, well then we can just start moving the capo along the guitar till they find a key that suits them. So I'll play those same two chords using G and C again. And you can hear that the key has gone up. So we can keep going up till we find a place where the singer's comfortable. You won't hear me singing in these videos anytime soon. Same chords. So you can hear that the key's gone up, but I can still play just G and C. The capo, essentially what it does, you're moving the nut, if you think of it that way, you're moving the nut up. So wherever you place the capo, you're now 0. So this is now our 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret. So another nice use for the capo, as we're here on the 5th fret, we can kind of start to mimic other instruments as we move up the guitar. So I'm going to quickly grab a ukulele. All right, so we're back here with my ukulele. So the way the ukulele is tuned, it's very similar tuning to the guitar. It's kind of just like a guitar up a 4th. So it's like having a capo on the 5th fret, except this string is an octave higher than the 4th string would normally be. So these are the same as the first 4 strings, with this being up an octave. So if I just play this here. I grab my guitar again. So it's not going to sound exactly the same. Obviously I have steel strings, that has nylon strings, this is a bigger body, that has a smaller body, but we can kind of mimic it. So we're getting pretty close to what a ukulele might sound like. So if you're recording a song or there's another guitar player there, just finding something that can kind of mimic another instrument is kind of cool. So even if I come up higher, we can really almost sound like a ukulele or a mandolin even when we get up this high. So you can hear it's quite high up there. Again, just being able to use D, C, and G there, we get a really unique kind of sound out of the guitar. So if that was in a track, if there's drums and bass and other instruments there, and someone's hearing that high instrument, they're going to think it's a mandolin or a ukulele or another instrument like that. So you can kind of trick people into thinking they're hearing something else when you're just using your guitar. It saves you buying a whole load of new instruments, doesn't it? So often you hear people say, don't bother with a capo, just learn your bar chords. Capos are for beginners. You know, just man up, learn how to use a capo. Now, so there are advantages and disadvantages to using a capo. The one thing about using a capo is that you keep that open chord sound. G and C and D and all these open chords here have a kind of a ring to them. So if you want to keep that openness sound in your chords, but you want to go up a key, so let's go up to A. Putting the capo on there. Sounds different to just playing a chord like the chord sequence like this. If I played an A again here. So it just has a slight different quality to it, doesn't it? So again, it gives you a choice. If once you know where to put the capo to be able to do that, you have a choice. So I think capos are great for keeping that, especially if you're playing folk or country music. People tend to want to hear those open chords. If you're playing rock and stuff, yeah, you probably should learn your bar chords. So a slight disadvantage of using a capo there would be if I'm in the key of A, and I'm going to go to E. If I have a capo on the 2nd fret, I'm losing that low 6th string. So we're going to have this instead. We're going to have our A here. That's a G shape. That's our D. And then that's our E now. So we're losing that low 6th string. But again, it's a personal choice. Does that bother you? You know, it's a stylistic choice at the end of the day, isn't it? Again, back in the capo's favor, there's a couple little things we can do. I don't use this a whole lot. There's you can get capos that aren't full capos, and people use them for putting their guitars in an alternate tuning as such. So I'm going to put my capo on here and just across the top 5 strings. So we have a capo on the 2nd fret for 5 of the strings, and my 6th string is still open. So if I play that same D I was playing a second ago, shape, which is now an E because we have a capo on the 2nd fret. I'll explain all that in the second video, like how do I know that this is now an E chord. So it's a D shape, but we're actually getting the sound of an E. So with this 6th string open, I can now strum all 6 strings. So we can kind of get that drop D tuning sound, but I'm in the key of E here. So we get this. So that's a cool idea to use. Another thing we can do is, obviously, if I want to come higher up the guitar, and we want to think something like this. I get that option as well. So having the capo on, I can keep a lot of open strings ringing. So again, I wouldn't be able to do that without the capo on. So the capo has many uses. So if someone says you capo's just for beginners, they really haven't explored the possibilities. Really, this is more advanced things. So you could argue that capos are more for advanced techniques, couldn't you? Let's just have a quick look at a few different capos I have here. This is a Kaiser capo. These are probably the most common type of capos that people use. They're not the cheapest, but they're not the most expensive. And probably they'd be the one I would suggest anyone buy. Cheap capos are just not worth it. Their springs can be either too tight or too loose, or they just don't hold down properly on the strings, or they can be just a real pain to get on and can pull at the strings and stuff like that. So this is a pretty simple idea. It's probably one of the oldest designs, but it's kind of bulletproof. They're still the most common capos you'll see. One of my favorite types of capos is this guy, the G7 or G7. Now these are a bit more expensive than your Kaiser. These don't have any spring. The way they work is the front closes, but as it closes, it can't open again. So it creates pressure by you pushing it, but it doesn't have any spring on it. So you kind of control how much pressure you put on the guitar. Again, same thing. I'm going to hold down the fret in front, put the front down. I'll just press it down again there. And then I just push in the back, and I can choose how much pressure I want on the capo. Also, when I was beginning, everyone was using these things. These were the cheap and cheerful ones. I actually don't even know if you can still get them. I just wouldn't even bother wasting my money. They go on, and then you put this here in the teeth, and then when you pull, it tightens the capo. But I don't know if you can see what's happening here. There's a good example. This has pulled my 6th string off the guitar. So it tends to pull the strings up as it's going on. So you kind of have to fight it to stop it. Plus, you don't really have control over how much tension. You just have 5 choices. And on this particular guitar, the 2nd tooth is too loose and the 3rd is too tight. So ideally, I need it in between. So this is no good to me. Another great use for a capo, guys, is to add a 2nd guitar part to a song, whether you're recording or you're the 2nd guitar player in the band or just jamming. If someone's just playing open chords, let's say in the key of D here, we'll just keep it nice and simple. So D, G, and A. There's no point you playing those guitar parts as well. You're redundant as such. You know, if you want to keep your position in the band, there's no point in you just doubling up something someone else is already playing. You need to kind of come up with a second part that people go, oh, wow, that's really cool. You're really adding to the song, not just, you know, fattening up the sounds that doesn't really need to be fattened up. So if I put my capo here on the 5th fret, and if I play in the key of A, we're now playing a D chord here. So let's just make up a little song here now. So even something simple like that, so you can hear with both guitar parts there, you're kind of adding something else to the song. Thanks guys, I really hope you found that helpful. Don't forget, there'll be a second video to this where I'll show you how to modulate the keys and how to know what key you're in and when you're playing what shapes with a capo on. So guys, if you're interested in learning more about guitar, I have a great book. It's aimed at beginners and intermediate guitar players. I've been teaching for over 20 years, so I know all the mistakes and bad habits that beginners make. So I wrote this book with all that in mind. It'll guide you through how to go from absolutely knowing nothing all the way up to your first guitar solo, bearing in mind that I know what mistakes people are likely to make. I've seen it just over 20 years of teaching. So I'll be constantly advising you of what mistakes to avoid and the best habits to develop to learn quicker. So please check out my website. Also guys, there will be a downloadable link in this video for the PDF, which really applies more to the second video. But if you have a fair idea of how to use a capo already, this PDF might be helpful for you as well. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next video.